All right, so are you ready to dive deep?
I am.
Awesome. Today, we're going to be exploring a question.
Yeah.
Why do humans, even though we're capable of incredible cooperation,
Yes.
also seem to be hardwired for conflict? It's like we're these walking contradictions.
Yeah.
We're constantly pulled between unity and division.
Uh,
Our mission today
yes.
is to try and understand this paradox.
Okay.
We're going to examine evidence from archaeology, observations from modern hunter-gatherer societies,
Right.
and even take a peek into the lives of our chimpanzee cousins.
Fascinating.
Speaking of chimps, did you know that they engage in planned attacks against rival groups?
I did. It's quite remarkable.
And sometimes these attacks even result in fatalities.
Yes. It's a chilling reminder that aggression may have some deep evolutionary roots.
Yeah.
It's fascinating, isn't it?
Yeah.
It suggests that the seeds of conflict might be far older than we initially thought, stretching back millions of years in our primate lineage.
Oh, wow. Yeah, I'm already intrigued. So where do we begin to try and unravel this mystery?
Well, I think we should begin with the basics. Competition for resources.
Okay.
Imagine early human groups constantly on the move, searching for food,
Right.
water, safe havens.
Yeah.
Resources were limited, which led to, obviously, inevitable competition between these different groups.
Yeah.
And when survival is on the line,
Right.
even just minor disagreements
Yeah.
can escalate really quickly.
Right. Yeah. It's like that game of musical chairs where someone is always left standing when the music stops.
Exactly.
I guess some things never change, even if the stakes aren't always life or death.
Right.
Because we see this even today, whether it's competition for jobs, housing,
Yes.
or even just trying to get the last parking spot at the mall.
Absolutely. The underlying principle remains remarkably consistent
Yeah.
across these vastly different contexts.
Right.
But I think competition is only part of the equation.
Okay.
We also have this deep-seated need for group identity.
And social cohesion,
Okay.
which can be a double-edged sword.
So you mean that belonging to a group wasn't just about, camaraderie and friendship?
No,
It was actually crucial for survival.
absolutely.
Wow.
In early human societies, belonging to this tight-knit group
Right.
provided significant advantages.
Yeah.
Protection from predators,
Yeah.
more efficient hunting and gathering, and a higher chance of successfully raising children.
Right.
But here's the catch.
Okay.
This in-group preference, this preference for your own group,
Yeah.
often fostered suspicion and even hostility towards those who are outside of the group.
So we're wired to love our tribe, but be wary of other tribes.
Exactly.
Wow. It makes you wonder how much of human history has been shaped by this us versus them mentality.
I think more than we might realize.
Yeah.
Just think about it. Sports rivalries, political polarization,
Right.
even just online communities forming these echo chambers.
Yeah.
Haven't you ever felt a sense of us versus them in these situations? Definitely. Yeah.
Yeah.
I've been known to get a little carried away during a certain football rivalry.
I can imagine.
But before I reveal too much about my tribal instincts,
Yes.
let's move on to another driving force behind conflict.
Okay.
Hierarchy and dominance.
Ah, yes. The quest for status and power.
Right.
This is deeply embedded in our nature, both within groups and between groups.
Yeah.
In many primate societies, including our own,
Right.
there's this inherent drive to climb the social ladder.
Hmm.
And conflict often arises from that very climb.
So it's not enough to simply belong. We also have this innate desire to be on top.
It seems so.
It's almost as if we're programmed to compete not just for resources, but for social standing as well.
You hit the nail on the head. The higher you climb, the greater your access to resources,
Right.
mates, and influence.
Yeah.
And this competition can manifest in very subtle ways,
Yeah.
like jockeying for a position in a meeting,
Right.
or in much more dramatic displays of power, like conflicts between nations vying for global dominance.
Wow. Okay. So we've got competition for resources, the pull of group identity, and this insatiable drive for dominance.
Yeah.
But let's not forget another key ingredient in this evolutionary cocktail: aggression.
Right.
I know it's a sensitive topic, but
Indeed.
yeah.
But we can't shy away from the fact that aggression is as a part of our evolutionary heritage.
Right.
It served a purpose,
Yeah.
defending against predators, competing for resources, protecting one's group.
So are you saying that aggression was, in a way, adaptive?
Yes,
Like it actually helped our ancestors survive?
exactly.
Wow.
The challenge lies in the fact that this capacity for aggression,
Yeah.
while potentially beneficial in specific circumstances, sources
Hmm.
can be very easily misdirected and lead to violence and conflict.
Right.
And it raises a crucial question.
Right.
Can we ever truly overcome our aggressive tendencies,
Yeah.
or is it more about learning to manage them effectively? What
Yeah.
are your thoughts? It's a question that has puzzled philosophers and scientists for ages.
Right.
To gain a deeper understanding, I think we need to look beyond our own species.
Okay.
Remember those chimpanzees we talked about earlier?
Yes.
Their behavior offers some fascinating insights into the roots of aggression.
Right. Our closest relatives who also happen to engage in violent conflict.
Yes.
What is it about their behavior that's so revealing?
Well, as we mentioned, they engage in these planned, coordinated attacks against rival groups.
Okay.
It's not just random acts of aggression.
Right.
There's a strategic element to it.
Oh, well.
They'll plan raids, ambush their rivals,
Yeah.
and sometimes even kill members of the opposing group.
That sends chills down my spine.
Yeah.
It paints a pretty stark picture of just how ingrained aggression can be, even in our closest kin.
It does.
Do our sources provide any specific examples of this strategic aggression?
They do.
Okay.
One study documented a group of chimps systematically targeting and eliminating a neighboring group over several years.
Wow. They weren't just fighting over a meal or a piece of territory.
Right.
They were systematically wiping out their rivals, expanding their own territory in the process.
That's incredibly disturbing,
It is.
but also strangely fascinating.
Yeah.
It's a reminder that this capacity for violence isn't unique to humans.
Right.
It seems to run much deeper, back to our shared ancestry with other primates.
Yeah.
But it's not just chimps, right?
No.
Our sources also mention evidence from archaeology
Yes.
and observations of modern hunter-gatherer societies.
Precisely. When we look at the archaeological record, we uncover a somewhat sobering narrative.
Okay.
Excavations of ancient settlements have revealed skeletal remains bearing the marks of violence, embedded weapons, skull fractures, you name it.
Wow.
And the presence of mass graves suggests that large-scale conflicts were not uncommon.
So we're not just dealing with speculation here.
No.
There's physical evidence of violence in our distant past.
Yeah. What about hunter-gatherer societies? How do they fit into this picture?
Well, anthropologists who are studying contemporary hunter-gatherer groups,
Okay.
who often live in ways very similar to our early ancestors,
Right.
have observed that conflict between groups is relatively frequent.
Mm-hmm.
These disputes often revolve around resources like hunting grounds or water sources.
Yeah.
But they can also be sparked by territorial disputes or even acts of revenge for past wrongs.
It seems like this pattern of conflict is deeply woven into the tapestry of human history,
It seems so.
stretching back to our earliest origins.
Yeah.
It's a bit unsettling, to be honest,
Yeah.
but this deep dive doesn't simply stop at describing the problem, right?
Yeah.
It also explores this complex web of factors
Yes.
that contribute to this conflict.
Of course. We've touched upon the evolutionary reasons, competition, group identity, dominance, aggression. But to fully grasp the complexity of this issue, we need to consider the interplay of evolutionary psychology, genetics, neurobiology, hormonal influences,
Yeah.
and even social psychology.
Wow, that's a lot to unpack.
It is.
It sounds like conflict isn't just a simple equation.
Yeah.
It's this multifaceted phenomenon with roots in our biology, psychology, and social structures.
Absolutely. Let's start by delving into evolutionary psychology.
Okay.
This field examines how natural selection has molded human behavior over millions of years.
Mm-hmm.
From this perspective,
Yeah.
intergroup conflict might have actually conferred certain adaptive advantages
Really?
in our evolutionary past.
Adaptive adaptation. So you're saying conflict was beneficial in some ways?
Well, beneficial might not be the best word,
Okay.
but in certain contexts, it could have increased the odds of survival and reproduction for our ancestors.
Okay.
Imagine a group successfully defending its territory and resources.
Right.
Those individuals would be more likely to survive, thrive, and pass on their genes to future generations.
Oh, yeah.
Over time, this could lead to the selection of traits that favor group cohesion,
Right.
which could also potentially include aggression toward outsiders.
That's a thought-provoking, albeit somewhat disturbing idea.
Yes.
But what about the role of genetics? Do our genes directly influence our levels of aggression?
That's a very complex question.
Yeah.
And the research is still ongoing.
Okay.
While studying the genetic basis of human aggression is very difficult,
Right.
studies on animal behavior
Yeah.
have pinpointed specific genes linked to aggression and social behavior.
Hmm.
It's likely that our genes contribute to individual differences in aggression
Okay.
and our susceptibility to biases against those outside our group.
So it's not just nature or nurture.
Yeah.
It's this complex interplay of both.
Exactly.
Our genes might predispose us to certain behaviors,
Yes.
but our environment and experiences also play a crucial role.
Exactly.
But it's not just about genes.
Right.
Our sources also dive into this fascinating world of neurobiology
Yeah.
and how our brains are wired for conflict.
Exactly. When we examine the brain, we find specific regions and neurochemicals that play a crucial role in regulating social behavior,
Mm-hmm.
including aggression.
Yeah.
For instance, the amygdala,
Right.
a small almond-shaped structure deep within the brain,
Yeah.
acts as a sort of alarm system, constantly scanning for threats.
I've heard of the amygdala. Is that the part of the brain that's associated with fear and the fight or flight response?
Precisely.
Okay.
And sometimes it can misinterpret a harmless outsider as a threat,
Oh, wow.
triggering those same fear and aggression responses
Wow,
that were
yeah.
so crucial for survival in our evolutionary past.
It's amazing to think that our brains are constantly making these split-second calculations,
Oh, yeah.
assessing threats and deciding how to respond.
Yes.
But it's also a reminder that our brains aren't perfect.
No.
They can be influenced by biases and primal instincts
Right.
that aren't always appropriate in our modern world.
That's a great point.
Yeah.
And we can't forget about the role of hormones, particularly testosterone.
Right.
It's been linked to aggression in both humans and animals,
Yeah.
although the relationship is complex and not fully understood.
Okay. So we've got evolutionary pressures,
Yes.
genetic predispositions, specific brain regions, and hormones all contributing to this potential for conflict.
Yes,
A potent mix.
it is.
But our sources also mention something called social identity theory.
Right.
What exactly is that?
Social identity theory comes from the field of social psychology.
Okay.
It suggests that we derive a part of our self-concept from the groups we belong to,
Mm.
our nationality, our ethnicity, our religious affiliation, even our favorite sports team.
So in a way, we are what we belong to.
Exactly.
Our group memberships shape our sense of self
Yeah.
and how we see the world.
Precisely. And while this sense of belonging can be a positive force,
Right.
it can also lead to in-group favoritism
Yeah.
and out-group bias.
Okay.
We tend to view our own group as superior and more deserving,
Right.
while viewing other groups with suspicion or even hostility.
Ah, so that explains why we cheer for our team even when they're playing dirty.
Exactly.
But on a more serious note,
Yeah.
this social identity thing really helps explain how seemingly arbitrary group distinctions
Yes.
can lead to real-world conflict.
Absolutely.
It's like we're wired to divide ourselves into us and them.
You've got it.
Yeah.
And this tendency is incredibly powerful, shaping everything from our personal relationships to global
This
politics.
has been a pretty intense exploration of the darker side of human nature.
It has.
Is there any reason to be optimistic?
I think so.
Are we doomed to repeat the conflicts of our past?
Not at all.
Okay.
While it might seem like conflict is inevitable,
Right.
it's crucial to remember that humans are also capable of extraordinary acts of empathy, cooperation, and altruism.
That's true.
Yeah.
We've seen countless examples of people from different backgrounds coming together to help each other, especially in times of crisis.
Absolutely.
It's like there's this other side to human nature, a side that's driven by compassion and a desire to connect.
Exactly. And here's the key takeaway.
Yeah.
Culture and social factors play a huge role in shaping how these innate predispositions are expressed.
Okay.
We're not simply puppets controlled by our biology.
Right.
We have the ability to choose how we respond to these deep-seated tendencies.
That's a really powerful message.
It is.
It means that while we might be wired for conflict in some ways,
Yes.
we also have the power to override those impulses and choose a different path.
Absolutely. But to do that effectively, we need to understand these underlying factors.
Yeah.
That's why deep dives like this are so important.
Yeah.
They help us shed light on the roots of conflict.
Right.
Not to excuse it, but to empower us to make more informed choices and
Yeah.
create a more peaceful future.
So we've uncovered some pretty deep-rooted evolutionary factors that contribute to division and conflict. But like you said, we're not simply slaves to our biology.
Right.
So if understanding these predispositions is Like the first step,
Yes.
what comes next?
Right.
What can we do, like as individuals and societies, to mitigate conflict and foster cooperation?
Well, that's the million-dollar question, isn't it?
Yeah,
There's no simple answer.
right.
But I believe that one of the most crucial things we can do is cultivate awareness.
So,
The more we understand about these deeply ingrained tendencies, the better equipped we are to recognize them, both in ourselves and in
it's
others.
about recognizing our own biases, those triggers that might push us toward that us versus them mentality.
Precisely. We all have them.
Yeah,
But by becoming aware of our biases, we can start to challenge them
right.
and make more conscious choices about how we interact with people from different backgrounds or who hold different beliefs.
Look, shining a light on our own blind spots.
Yes.
Those ingrained patterns of thinking that we might not even realize are influencing our perceptions.
Exactly.
But awareness alone isn't enough, is it?
It's not.
We can't just acknowledge the problem and expect it to magically disappear.
You're absolutely right. Awareness is only the foundation. We also need to actively promote empathy and understanding.
Okay.
This means making a genuine effort to listen to perspectives that are different from our own,
Yeah.
trying to see the world through other people's eyes,
Right.
and recognizing the shared humanity that connects us all.